My manager called me out in front of the entire team. On a Tuesday morning. Not privately. Not in a one-on-one. In the stand-up. With 11 people on the call. He said, and I want you to hear this exactly. I sent you that email last night, and I still haven't heard back. That's not okay. We need people who are on top of things. 11 people. Staring at their screens. Waiting to see what I would do. I didn't say a word. I just nodded. Opened my laptop. And started building the thing that was going to end this man's credibility. In front of every single one of those 11 people. He just didn't know it yet. If you've ever been publicly humiliated by a boss who thought he was untouchable, who called you out in front of your peers like you were a child being scolded, and you sat there in that moment thinking, I will not let this go. This story is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and stay with me. Because what happened next in that office was so clean, so calculated, and so completely devastating that people are still talking about it. Let's go. First, let me tell you who this manager was. Because this wasn't some one-time slip. This wasn't a stressed-out guy having a bad week. This was a pattern, a personality, a management style built entirely on making other people feel small, so he could feel big. His name doesn't matter. Let's just call him what he was, the kind of guy who schedules 8 a.m. meetings when a Slack message would have worked. The kind of guy who CCs the entire department on emails that only needed one recipient. The kind of guy who uses words like accountability and ownership in every single sentence, but somehow never applies either of those words to himself. He had been at the company long enough to feel untouchable, long enough that people just accepted him, absorbed his behavior, built their lives around his moods, checked their phones at dinner because of him, woke up anxious at 2 a.m. because of him. And his favorite weapon, his absolute go-to move, was the late-night email. 10 p.m., 11 p.m., sometimes midnight. Casual stuff, not emergencies. Things that could absolutely wait until morning, but sent at midnight, with the energy of someone who expected, no, demanded, a response before the next day's stand-up. And if you didn't respond, if you were, asleep like a normal human being, you'd find out about it the next morning. Publicly. In front of everyone. That Tuesday morning stand-up was not the first time he'd done this. It was just the first time. He did it to the wrong person. Our guy, let's call him OP, had been with this company for 2 years. Good employee. Reliable. Never missed a deadline. The kind of person who actually read the emails his manager sent, actually drafted thoughtful replies, actually cared about the work. He had absorbed the midnight email culture the same way everyone else had. Grudgingly. Exhaustedly. With the phone always face up on the nightstand, just in case. But something shifted that Tuesday morning. Because when his manager said those words, I still haven't heard back, that's not okay, in front of 11 colleagues, something inside OP went very, very quiet. Not the quiet of someone backing down. The quiet of someone who has just made a decision. He nodded, said nothing, and opened his laptop. The meeting moved on. His manager, satisfied that he'd made his point, moved on to the next agenda item like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just publicly dressed down a solid employee in front of an entire team. Over a midnight email about quarterly projections. OP spent the rest of that meeting building a spreadsheet. Here's what he built. He went back through his email history, 6 months worth, and pulled every single email his manager had sent him after 9 p.m. Every one. He logged the date, the time, the subject line, and whether a response was expected before the next morning's stand-up. Then he added a second column. Response required by stand-up, yes or a no. Was it an actual emergency, yes or a no? Could it have waited until morning? Yes or a no? 6 months of data. Dozens of emails. The results were, not surprising, but in spreadsheet form, absolutely devastating. 0 emergencies. Not one. Every single late-night email was casual, non-urgent, and could have been sent the next morning with 0 impact on any project or deadline. He formatted it cleanly, color-coded it, added a summary row at the bottom with the average send time, 10:52 p.m., and the percentage of emails that were genuine time-sensitive emergencies, 0%. He saved the file, named it something boring so nobody would notice it sitting on his desktop. And he waited. He didn't have to wait long. The following Thursday, their department had its monthly review meeting. Bigger than stand-up. More people. The manager's own boss was on the call. A VP. Someone reasonable. Fair. The kind of leadership that actually cared about how the team was functioning. The meeting was going normally. Updates, numbers, project timelines. And then, the manager did it again. He brought up response times. Said something about the team needing to be more responsive and more proactive about communication. Said it with that particular brand of confidence that comes from never having been challenged. And OP calmly, quietly, with zero aggression in his voice said, "Can I share something that might be relevant to that conversation?" The VP said yes. OP shared his screen. The spreadsheet filled the screen. 6 months of data. Every late-night email. Every timestamp. Every subject line. The zero emergencies column sitting there in clean, color-coded red. He didn't editorialize. He didn't make a speech. He just walked through the data the same way he'd walk through any project update. Calm. Professional. Factual. I wanted to understand our communication patterns better, so I put this together. What you're seeing is every email I received after 9 p.m. over the last 6 months, the subject matter, and whether it required action before the next morning's stand-up. The average send time is 10:52 p.m. The number of those emails that were genuine time-sensitive emergencies. He let that hang in the air for just a moment. Is 0. Silence. Not awkward silence. The specific silence of a room full of people who are processing something they weren't expecting. The VP's face, even through a video call, even in that small screen box, was doing something. A slight tightening around the eyes. The look of someone who is very carefully choosing their next words. The manager's camera was on. OP could see his face. He was not choosing his words carefully. He looked like a man who had just stepped on a garden rake and was trying to decide whether the pain was real. The VP spoke first. He thanked OP for putting the data together. Said it was a useful look at team communication patterns. Said they should discuss it further. Moved the meeting forward. But the damage was done. In the most professional, undeniable, data-backed way possible. The manager had been exposed. Not accused. Not attacked. Exposed. With his own emails. With his own timestamps. With 6 months of evidence that he had been treating his team's personal time like company property. And then publicly shaming them for not being available at midnight. After the meeting, OP got a message from the VP. A private one. Good work putting that together. Let's connect this week. That conversation led to a formal review of after-hours communication expectations across the entire department. The manager was required to attend a session on, and I love this, healthy team communication practices. OP got a new direct manager 3 months later. His midnight emails? 0. Not reduced. 0. Here's what this story is really about. It's about what happens when someone decides that enough is enough, and instead of getting loud, they get organized. Instead of getting angry, they get evidence. Instead of confronting someone in the moment, they wait for the right moment, in the right room, with the right audience. And they let the data do the talking. No threats. No drama. No HR complaint that goes nowhere. Just a spreadsheet, a shared screen, and 60 seconds of calm, factual, professionally devastating truth. The most powerful thing you can do to someone who abuses their authority quietly is expose them publicly, with their own behavior as the evidence. He handed the rope. OP just waited for the right moment to pull it. If this story hit different, if you've ever sat in a meeting being called out for something that wasn't your fault and thought, "I will not let this go," smash that like button, drop a comment, and tell me, what's the most satisfying workplace revenge you've ever seen or pulled off? And subscribe, because we've got more stories exactly like this one, where regular people, backed into corners, find the most precise, most professional, most deeply satisfying ways to even the score. I'll see you in the next one.